All right, welcome everybody to the GSL end of season magazine. We're gonna be, doing it real big, doing it live, which it's actually not live because we're not actually live right now, but we could be. We do have the capacity to be, so there's that. I've got Rude. Shout out to Rude. Where's Rude?
Yep, I'm here.
Yeah, we got Rude. And then I see also in the Discord that we have Bang. He was in earlier. Right now he's deafened and muted. And I also see MCD lurking. He hasn't said anything though, so I don't know if he's alive or.
Maybe.
Oh man, did you just do a voice changer, MCD?
Yeah.
This is my new voice.
No, this is how I sound now. I wish I could do that too. I gotta get that voice changer set up, then we can all be as beastly as MCD.
Been working out.
Yup, been getting brolic, real brolic. All right, so the plan of attack, we're gonna be talking about theoretically the entire GSL season, depending on what we can get through, because I think you guys, aside from the first mag I think we did a pretty good job on. Then kind of the subsequent mags were kind of lackluster. But
We have ADHD.
Yeah, ADHD. That's what it's all about. All right, so I know, Rude. You mentioned that you wanted to kind of work backwards, like work from the finals to the semifinals to the quarterfinals, etc. And talk about specific verses or like the overview there.
Yeah, I guess start at the finals because that is the end, but and then as the season as an overview. Wherever you want to start there. We don't necessarily have to go semifinals backwards, but
okay. All right. Well,
I don't think I did a bad finals.
Yeah. All right. Well, I did a pretty lengthy video where I tried to deliberate between which verse I preferred, because both of you guys absolutely slayed it in this finals. I think you guys had some of the best writing that we've seen in the GSL league. So that's, I can't say I expected anything else, given that the final was MCD versus Rude. Can't expect anything but the best. Rude's verse, which was Siren's song, inspired by Hans Christian Andersen, was, as I recall, it was kind of like a little twisted story of a mermaid that helps a prince, and then the prince turns out to be like a twisted psychopath and like tortures her and stuff. And there's a witch that taunts her, and just it was wild. What was your when we got the topics, which was you had to take a fairy tale and make it your own.
I went through several different stories until I found one that I felt it, like the Hans Christian Andersen version of The Little Mermaid was already dark, and I just kind of made it worse.
Oh yeah.
So that's basically all I was trying to do, was just turn it into more of a horror story than it was really. Which the Hans Christian Andersen version didn't exactly have a happy ending. Mine wasn't even close to the happy ending.
No, it certainly was not a happy ending. Being tortured and abused, that's not my idea of a happy ending. Let's read it. Excruciating pain, there's a reason that she crept. It's like walking across a sharp blade. She bleeds with every step. She met the price as planned, and every moment as and every movement as his shadow. But the rising tides had turned when she took notice that he's shallow. He treats her like a pet, gives her hope and lets it fall. She's got no melodies to harmonize with, so she's at his beck and call. until he decides to wed anew while she's clearly like a captive, for her luminescent shine and how the mirror lights refracted. Couldn't take it so she'd cry, she paid the toll that's owed, and twice cut her feet off for her tail with the same blade that stole his life. Murder! Murder, she cried.
So, in the Hans Christian Andersen version of that story, they never actually gave her a name. They just called her the Little Mermaid. When she went to the Sea Witch and decided that she wanted legs instead of to go to the above ground or whatever, instead of just like magically taking her voice like the Disney version, she actually cuts out. And she tells her that that's not the only price she's going to pay, that it's going to excruciatingly painful for her to walk on the earth because she wasn't meant to. But she dealt with it anyways. And then she meets the prince, and he's like very shallow. He's into her because she's pretty, but that's about where it stops because he calls her stupid, and he treats her like she's almost like the town retard. Like he puts a pillow at his door, and that's where she has to sleep at. And so that's the Hans Christian Andersen version was like basically she was something pretty to look at until he found something better.
Damn. That's pretty brutal. Not gonna lie, that is pretty brutal. Yeah, I think you did a friggin' ridiculous job in terms of telling the story, and like the rhyme schemes were solid throughout. You had like alliteration, you had all these little literary devices throughout. I really liked it. MCD, are you like actually here, like in the flesh, in the...
I'm not in your room. No, I'm on the other side of the Atlantic, but I am
Alright,
here.
fair enough. That's still pretty good though.
Yeah, we can hear.
Yeah, we can hear you, man. I'm gonna turn you up to make sure everybody can hear you. Try talking again.
Oh.
Alright, that should work.
Yep,
I'll put you at 150%. Alright, so as
2 seconds.
Sure. So as I recall, MCD's verse, his plot line was that this little sleepy village is overrun by these gigantic rats that they first try to quell with like I think they said a dozen cats for every rat or something like that, and all the cats were like brutally murdered, and so then like the king or the duke or the baron, whichever title it was that lorded over the land there, he called upon the piper to get them all out. So the piper, gets him to walk into the sea, and he's like, hey, where's my reward? And the guy's like, you screwed me over. Or no, well, he's like, we never shook on it, we never agreed. And he's like, okay, well, peace. And then he flutes the children into the sea and kills all the children. So that was pretty metal.
It's a little European fairy tale, that one.
Yep. Pied Piper.
I love it because I mean the version that I have always heard of it is he lures them out of town. Like he doesn't lure them to certain death.
Yeah, no, he lures them into the forest, I think. It's a German fairy tale. Changed it a little bit. I thought going back to the sea would be a bit cooler.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think you did a terrific job with it. You guys both did.
Like I said, I'm gonna be honest, like I was the other night when we were doing the podcast on B2R2. I honestly feel like I expected a different outcome. I really expected like to lose like at a 5-2, 5-3 ish. So and that was definitely a GSL finals winning verse, and I would have voted.
I just think it was a really close battle that could have gone either way.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
I usually get a feeling when I see other people's verses, and I didn't get a feeling that time. It was like, fuck this.
Yeah.
What I do know is I literally wrote to the best. I couldn't have done anything more, and I said to myself, I don't care now, win or lose. I'm pretty proud of getting that far anyway.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't be salty if I lost, and I wasn't.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, because I mean, I ended up voting for MCD because, like, I struggled with this. Like, that recording, that was the second recording. I had already done, like, a half-hour recording, but I ended up getting a phone call or something. So I'm like, I'll just do it again, you know, start fresh and be hopefully more concise. But at that point, even at the start, I had already been deliberating between your verses because you guys both killed it. Like, I get what you're saying, MCD, with like getting a feeling, like when you read over someone else's verse, you know, you can kind of appraise it versus your own verse's value. And like a lot of times you can get a pretty good read for how much danger you're in, you know, how hot the water is. And that was some hot water, man. That was a killer verse from you both. Like,
I think it's like one of those battles where on any given day you put, you know, 7 or however many voters in there, and you make it a different outcome every.
Yeah, I bet.
And I agreed with everything they said. The only thing I didn't agree with, actually, was it Grim, who didn't like the old English language I was using occasionally. The aesthetic of it being an old fairy tale. He made it out that we all use it quite often, and it's like, do we? I don't remember really seeing anyone else.
Yeah,
oh, hello.
What's up?
Yep, we can hear you.
What up? Alright, cool.
What's up, Bang?
I slept on my mic last night. I think I fucked it up.
Uh-oh.
What up?
It seems like it's working just fine.
Yeah, it might be a little. Alright, so my voice isn't too low or nothing?
No.
Alright, cool.
Yeah, we're talking about Rude versus MCD.
Yeah, I was listening to that. And that's actually what I thought was. I think Jay said it really well, where in his vote, he was talking about how MCD's use of the language mimics an actual fairy tale, and that's what kind of like leaned my vote towards MCD too, even though I didn't vote in that, but I would have voted for his verse.
Yeah, I definitely feel that, because yeah, I mean both definitely had that the fairy tale style, but for me, like, at least in my reading, it felt more like authentic, I guess, like the hippy hoppy type feel of the fairy tale. So I don't know. I think you guys both slayed it, but at least for me, like it felt more tied to the fairy tale. You know, it's just like all the elements sort of lined up with the sort of floaty, silly way that a fairy tale would be written. You know.
Yeah, it's got like a whimsical value to it.
It was hard to get out of that weird flow once I got into it as well. It was like, I know exactly what you mean by that bobbity boop kind of fucking weird.
Bobbity boop.
You know exactly what I mean. You know, yeah.
So you just got stuck in the flow.
Yeah, it's annoying. I was trying to like add a bit more technical, but they just wouldn't fit.
I almost. Oh, go ahead.
It just ended up being a pretty basic structure to the flow. I couldn't get out of it.
So did you stick with the same story the whole time, or did you ever think about switching?
I thought it was Piper.
Mhm.
I just sort of put my own guess. There aren't, I don't think, station things like that. With cats, elaborate on that a little bit. It's hard though, because even a 40-line line limit sometimes, and I had to think about how I'm gonna.
Yeah, and you've got to give it the details and get all of your, checklist of things that you're supposed to be doing.
And close out the story in a satisfying way within the line count. It's tough.
Right.
Yeah, there was a bit. I think someone pointed out where children are following, and all of a sudden he's in a boat, just because of the line limit. I couldn't back all through the lines, and I was like, what can I take out? And I just didn't want to take anything out. People like it's a bit rushed there, and it's like, well,
I thought it had a satisfying conclusion. Like it worked for me.
Yeah, worked for me as well.
I almost wrote my verse completely as in the point of view of the Sea Witch. Like we had the night before, we had actually been talking about favorite Disney villains and their the music that they do. And like I said, always said that number one on my list was "Poor Unfortunate Souls" by Ursula, and so I almost wrote my entire verse. That's actually where I started, was with the Sea Witch segment, and then I worked my way backwards. But yeah, I almost messed up and wrote the entire section from her point of view. And it probably would have cost me the battle for sure.
What would you have
not
done?
necessarily. I think it could have worked.
How would you have approached it?
I would have started from where she made the, and then told the rest of the story as her third party watching it on. But then you wouldn't have got the emotional reason of why the mermaid wanted to be a human or any of that. So I was like, yeah, I don't know that it would work. So
I think
actually that's why I had to go back the next day and rewrite.
I think you made a solid choice with that. Opting for the emotional resonance, because it definitely paid off. Like the lines with how excruciating the pain was and all that, like those were some of the most impactful lines of the verse. So yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think you probably made the right decision, although it would have been cool to have seen that verse in any case.
Right. But it was definitely fun to read. Like when we initially had the themes to pick, I didn't know that I actually wanted to do the fairy tales to begin with, but then once I started writing, oh man, this is actually pretty fun.
I agree. When Jay said it, I was like, and like you say, there was quite a lot to choose from. Whereas with history, you have to go and do some research on history now, because that is my weak subject, to be fair. It's history anyway.
Your Pearl Harbor story was pretty historical, the Japanese one.
You want to hop into that battle
on
next?
Wikipedia for that.
I feel like that's a good segue.
Right. Let's lead right up back into the
MCD versus Curator.
And Rue, just to touch on what you were gonna say, yeah, I think you went the right way with that verse, but even if you had done it from the witch's perspective, like you're a writer that's able to, I'm sure you'd be able to make that verse compelling too,
Yep.
So the picture is like halfway showing up for me now. Oh wait,
Picture.
no, it's loading.
I don't see any picture. There's no picture. I've given up on the picture. So, based on what I recall, MCD's verse was a for some reason I feel like it was like a monk or like some like like he was in like a temple or some
No, no,
revered place.
That was me. Mercedes was about World War II.
Okay. But I thought it was like the guy. Hold on. Now I sit alone in
picture,
my
I think.
broken temple to reflect upon my dynasty. So, was this the emperor then?
He's like a general, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, because I
Who fought on the
remembered
front
that.
lines.
That's there was this whole thing that we must fight at all costs, and it describes like the attack on Pearl Harbor, and how they fought to. There was one line which was like to turn the advancing flotilla into an ocean of ghosts, like really good, just really really choice little line there. Why'd my music stop? Let's have it skip to the next song, hopefully. There we go. Okay. Yeah, so then obviously, Pearl Harbor results in the whole eastern front, right? And then we drop 2 atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which is described here, the blinding light and all that. A blinding pulse of light turned the waking world to white, like 1,000 camera bulbs at once, each flashing all in time. I raised my hand to shield my eyes and saw bones as black as night that moved beneath my skin as dragon's breath rattled fire-fractured sky. Like, that's just really dope. Really, really dope. So that was what I recall of that verse. And then we've got Curator's verse, which was okay. If you guys want to give your comments, I'm gonna read through Curator's verse real quick, just to remind myself of it.
Gotcha. Like, my favorite parts on MCDs were definitely the part that you just read with the blinding pulse of light.
Yep.
And then another part that actually gave me goosebumps was the ultimate sacrifice, forged a promise by the dawn of day. They'd raise Old Glory over a bloodstained forest of like that. That was very well written as well.
Yeah, mechanically.
It's hard to cram fucking 5-6 years of war into 32 lines.
Yeah.
With
But you
Pearl Harbor,
did it though.
straight to Ojima and stuff.
Yeah.
But
you did it. So what can be said?
There were just so many good lines. Like, everything here was just well done, but like you have a few lines that just really stick out. Like, we'd hide and wait for Western dogs to take the Isle by and kill every single Yankee boy, then turn the tide of war.
Yeah, one thing that I really like about your writing style is when you do these kind of different styles of verses, like, for example, writing about this, where you wrote about, say, Japanese general, right, in World War II, and you're writing about the Piper, and you're writing about the aliens that you had. Like, each time it takes on, a different, almost like language. You have like a much different style for each of them. You match your tone, you match your voice of your narrator to the subject matter. So like that's why in your fairy tale verse, like, it felt like a fairy tale because you wrote it like a fairy tale. Whereas this one, it was really, the sort of like almost describing like the driving force behind war, like the nationalistic pride and the little fear, nervousness that happens before war, and then like it just captured all of that in in so few lines. It's just really, really well done.
I tried to do some research. He's viewed the Americans and the Allies during the war, but I didn't want it to come across as stereotypically racist, so I actually found out genuinely called us and things like that. Eyes is an actual
Round eyes.
so
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good added detail.
Yep. We fought fiercely in the trenches of the Okinawan coast, fearlessly defending the heartland as the round eyes approached us in boats. Really nice. Really, really smooth writing. Do we want to talk about curators first, or do we want to move to Rude versus 11 Bang Bang?
I like curators, but I think like overall, I think like the narrative and the way that MCD put his together is what made me vote for his. But I do like that curator always has a very cosmic / mythological approach to a lot of his stuff, because that always triggers my interest.
Yeah, I really like his rhymes. Like, for example, as the pages flip in chorus, the place is porous, the walls appear distorted, the code more ordered. He lifts from meditation lorded, from bartering energies, seraphs imported, to conducting grand plays in cosmic quarters. Like, he has really interesting word choice. I think the real defining thing that would have decided this battle had it been one that I voted on would have been truly just the directness of MCD's narrative. Like, his was like right in the story. Like, you felt what was going on. You knew what was being described because he used enough details that you weren't confused about where you were in the world or what was going on. Whereas, like, Curator, his mechanics are strong, his rhyme schemes are strong, everything about his writing is good, but it felt kind of more distant, you know, sort of like
Like something you've got to ponder about for a minute to break it down, really.
Yeah, where, like, I feel like it could do both, you know what I mean? Like, you could write a story where, you know, it makes someone think, like, damn, you know, what would I do in that situation? Or, you know, what does it mean? That type of thing. So, like, it just feels like the storytelling style of MCD, like, more cleanly delivered us to the end, I guess, whereas Curators felt a little bit more, you know, more work to get through, if that makes sense, I guess.
Oh, it was definitely more work to get through. Yeah, I had to read Curator's verse a lot, actually. I did vote on that battle.
Yep.
And, I mean, MCD's verse was MCD, you know, all his schemes are going to be on point. His pacing was great. And then there's like really subtle details. I think one of the things I comment on in my vote was actually like how you get an increasing sense of fanaticism from the Japanese through each stanza. And that's something like that is like really like small details like that.
Yeah.
And then even with Curator, man, I think one of the biggest problems of that was he does have a very poetic, kind of abstract at times style, but his rhyme schemes were really, really simple. Like everything that you read out, Baron, when you were reading that was like 2-syllable rhyme schemes.
Yeah.
But like 4 or 5 of them, you know? And it's just on a hip hop forum where that's kind of like one of the main draws. I think people want to see more than really short schemes like that.
Yeah, I mean, he tried. Like, for example, like, prayers to the powers, greatest servant towers. Like, that was supposed to be prayers to the powers rhyming with the greatest servant towers. And like he was like working toward those things, but yeah, I think it could have been tightened up because for the most part, MCD's rhymes were very, very tight. You know, they were clean. You know, only one hope, ocean of ghost, approach us in boats, Okino and coast. Like it all works.
Yeah. Yep.
And I really, by
And
the
you
way,
know how hard it.
go on. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, when you know how hard it is to connect bigger multis, you know, that are like 4, 5, 6 syllables, then it's a lot more work to do that. And so, if you're using shorter multis, I think you have to compensate with like really beautiful lines in other ways, you know.
Yeah.
And a lot of, I don't know. That's what I was gonna say.
No, I definitely agree with you. Like, at least in terms of, and this is for like everybody in the GSL, because I think this is a really strong group of writers, to have together commenting on sort of the topical form and what we look for in topical. So even those of us that aren't in these battles that we're reading through, maybe we didn't, you know, that didn't make it into the playoffs, what have you. You can kind of get a feel for what we value, and definitely the multisyllabic rhymes are going to elevate your verses 100%. If you can do it well, it will make people read and value your verses more than they would otherwise. Like for example, Honor the Blade, Dawn of the Day, Forest of Graves, Warren of Caves. Like even though even though like you can definitely see the Warren of Caves, that's like MCD is British, right? And you know, I'm a Yank, right? So I read it and I'm like, at first I'm like, that's a little odd, but when you consider the ways that you can also pronounce it, like it still totally works. But like that sort of stronger rhyme scheme, rather than as we mentioned, you know, to pages flippin' chorus, this place is porous, which pages chorus, place is porous, that would have been a multi, but because of the flip, you know, because of the insertion there, it doesn't feel as much like a multi, even though the elements of the multi were there. So, you know, that's something worth considering, because yeah, like basically without the multis, we're gonna like grasp for other things that make it stronger, but it's always gonna be a smoother and cleaner read through somebody who's just dropping sick multisyllabic rhymes the whole time. It's gonna read like butter, and you know, people are gonna vote for that verse, you know, for the most part, unless you really give something, you know, that's extraordinary in some other way. But I'd say those mechanics are some of the most important. Do you guys have like some comments on that?
Yeah, I think it does what you just said. It does help the reader to actually pick up the flow and guide them through the flow. So yeah, it makes the read a lot cleaner.
Sort of gives you like a pace and a direction that the verse is going in. Like it builds momentum. I guess that's probably not a bad way of describing the difference here, is that MCD's verse, you can feel the momentum building as we're reading through it. Whereas while Curator's verse is good, like it's an enjoyable read, it doesn't really feel like we're like ratcheting up the tension. It doesn't feel like we're progressing. It feels like we're kind of staying stationary, describing things. I guess if that makes sense for the most part. And obviously that's not true entirely, because there are actions happening, like Sage exiting the lodge and kneeling as the heavenly anointment commences and all this, but it just feels less directly driving. I guess that's That's the description I would choose.
Yeah, I
Like
feel
a
that.
single stream of consciousness. Right?
Yeah,
It
Instead
did
of
read
like where
very
we all like break our
conscious.
lines down. This is Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. Pretty much, it's in story format.
yep.
Yeah. I think that's actually kind of, it almost adds to his piece, because I mean his piece is just about a priest, if I can remember correctly. I don't have the verses pulled up
A
right now.
Yeah,
sage.
pre-sage.
Who basically like trips. Just- and it definitely had that very like spacey, trippy vibe to it, which I think did add to the piece, including with some of the language he used. So he has a unique style, you know. You can't hate him for
Certainly
that.
does. He certainly does. He reminds me a lot of Lamarchand and that Seraphim guy who was here for a while.
He is Lamarche.
All right, well there you have it.
Oh, curators, Lamartian. I always hear people talk about that dude. I'm like, who the fuck is that?
He had his name changed a while back. But yeah, it was.
Wow. All right, well
Go
that's
back and look at his pieces, and you'll find all the little.
well. At least you
Oh,
know I'm
shit,
paying
okay, that
attention
makes
because I
sense.
noticed that they write similar. But yeah, he has a very pronounced, like, very much his own style. It's like I think it would make sense to try and lighten it up a little bit, because it feels like overly heavy, you know, like you're working through the verse rather than like moving through the verse, and like, because like MCDs, it's far less, you know, laborious to get through, just because, you know, you know where the story is and you can feel where the story's headed and you're kind of excited to get there. Whereas here, like, you don't really know what's going on, for the most part, at least. I don't know.
No, I agree with that, and that's why I had to read through Curator's verse like a lot, dude. That took me a while to get through that, just because I was like, what does this mean? And then trying to connect it to previous shit he said,
Yeah.
and trying to like basically draw meaning from his words, you know, and because he has a style that I'd say is like similar to Grimm's, and that is very open to
Gideon Grimm,
interpretation.
you mean?
Yeah.
Yep,
Gideon
I
Grimm.
definitely agree with that. All right, so
So it's one of those things where it's like lines are gonna fly over your head sometimes.
yep. You guys want to talk Rude versus 11 Bang Bang?
Sure, we can.
All right, let's pull them up. Do some pull-ups here. All right, so I haven't read either. I think I did, actually. I recognize Rude's verse. Yeah, if you guys want to talk about your battle, you know, amongst yourselves, because it's kind of cool. Like, we've had most of these matchups, because these are, like, you know, the finalists basically. So you know, you guys can talk about how you approach the verses, whatever you guys think would be, you know, be good. I'm gonna read through Rude's verse, then I'm gonna read through Bang's verse real quick.
I know I really like Bang's verse as soon as I seen it. Like, I'd seen he had posted a little bit before me, but I didn't read it, so I didn't want that to influence how I was writing. So I waited to read it after I posted it, and I really like that you went like outside of the box and made it like a metaphor for like almost like self-destruction, as far as to the topic of the picture with everything burning down around it.
I wrote that pretty quick. Hold on, I just saw a big ass cockroach. I'm trying to let me kill this shit real quick.
What happened? Wait, what? What happened? What is Bang killing?
A cockroach.
Oh no. I really like your second stanza. Like
God
all
damn
of
This
it.
motherfucker got away.
And I really like your ending with like a lotus in the leaf. Thrown Vinaya to the leaves like a lotus in the leaf. Like it's keeping with your same rhyme scheme and jamming internals. Like just really good.
This is my favorite rude verse of the whole tournament, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
especially
had a peek at
especially
NCDs
that
that week,
section.
and I seen that he went Japanese, and I was like, shit. I wanted to do like a Chinese story, but I didn't know exactly what to do, so I just tried to play off of a bunch of Chinese proverbs.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, I get their proverbs. I didn't realize they were Chinese ones. See, that's something I hadn't picked up before, so that elevates it even more.
Yeah, like
I
the
remember-
ones between the stanzas, and then the whole, on the path of vengeance, you must dig. You need to dig 2 graves.
Yeah, I actually didn't catch that either. I didn't know those were proverbs. But I remember right when Rue dropped this verse, I was like, I sent her a DM and I was straight up like, congrats. I know I'm losing to that.
The very last line, I heard it on Game of Thrones, and I just kind of like rewrote it because I like the way it sounded. Like they were talking about Peter Baelish, and they were like, yeah, he would watch the world burn so he could be king of the ash.
Yep, it's a really good line.
I think someone hit me up after that. I was like, yo, was Rude calling you king of the ashes? I was like, what?
Who
I got
asked you
weird,
that?
Like,
I think it was Jay to make sure that I wasn't dissing him
Oh
because
man.
me and Boom had just had like a dissing topical bat, so he
Oh,
wanted to make
man.
sure he didn't miss any shots.
I got you.
also got like Potter vibes from some of it, which I said in my feedback, I think. No. Not with parents, and there's a bit of a supernatural.
Yeah, I was like, I kind of, because he grew up in like a monastery, I kind of wanted him to have the power or sight, maybe. He wanted to use that, to rule, and they were like, no, you need to be modest, because that, that's, one of the disciplines of being a monk. Like you need to show modesty, and he didn't like that. It pretty much, they shunned him. They'll never kick you out of a monastery, but you may get shunned, and like that pissed him off and set him on a path of becoming a villain.
Wow.
Right.
And then I think you said something about a Genghis Khan or Attila the Hun, and that's kind of the vibe I wanted to go for. Like he became that guy. Like he just went around burning shit to the ground just because.
Yeah, I got that towards the end.
I was actually thinking about going for a Mongol verse with that picture too. And
I don't
talking
even
about,
know. I don't even know what picture it is. Was there a picture in this?
Yeah, it won't load.
Let me see if.
Tiny Pick lost their shit. But it was basically like a temple. I mean, and it had the red and gold, which I took as like the Chinese dragon, and it was like the temple was burning, and there was like a singular person with white hair in the middle of it.
right.
Ah.
And I think the angle I would have used with that would have been like describing the Mongol expansion into the west, and then their eventual return at the death of Genghis Khan. And
Yeah.
that's like where the dude would be in the temple.
I actually started doing research to go that route, and I was like, fuck, this is too much work. Let me just make something up.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
That's a large part of why I was like, no, fuck it. I'm not rewriting this because I wrote that verse in like a couple hours, maybe. It's not deep or anything. It's just like how I was feeling at the time. But I knew it's not like gonna appeal to readers. But I was like, honestly, I'm too lazy to put into work to
Yeah.
rewrite into something very narrative focused.
Yeah, it's quite a lot of work to do something that historically driven. Because then
As
you
a
have to.
writer, I'm very much like,
Yeah, I mean, what I was gonna say is, then you have to worry about like factual accuracy and all that. And, like, people are gonna be like, "Wait, this didn't happen. They didn't do this. They didn't use
I'm that
that."
person. You can't
Yeah,
see me, but I'm raising my
definitely.
hand. I'm that person. I always fact check. I don't know why.
I mean,
It's part
that's
of
good.
my OCD nature.
That's good.
And there's sometimes when I just want to get like, I just want to rhyme, dude. Like even in the battle I lost to you, Baron.
Yep.
That was directed at self because I expected him to be there, but I made that just like almost a straight up battle verse because I was kind of like bored of the GSL.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that
Topical
I actually really
styles
liked that.
of-
I remember that week. That was like what, week 6 or something, where we had a list of
Yeah.
list of things that you had to say. So like 12
Right.
things, 12 topics or whatever.
Oh, yep.
And I was like, hell no, I'm not gonna try to take these 12 random topics and make them a coherent story. How else can I do this?
Yeah, that was pretty wild. I want to look at that battle again. I'm gonna have a glance. Yeah, what I thought would be kind of interesting would be each of us, we can pick out our favorite verse of the season from someone else and our own favorite verse of the season, like of our own, and maybe if you guys want to, like, we could read our favorite verses either of someone else's or of our own if you had a desire to do that.
Yeah, I could do that.
I think that would
I
be.
think,
think
hands down, I already
Nigma-
know my favorite.
I think I know my favorite too. Nigma wrote the chess piece, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I play chess, so like, I really fucked with that.
It was like very Sun Tzu. The battle was won before it ever started. My favorite was MCD's week 3. I think it was about Demeter with the Frost Lady, pretty much describing like her taking away any chance at springtime ever coming again until she got Persephone back.
Dude, this is like kind of a red pill verse. I'm reading my own verse from that battle between you and I.
A red pill verse?
Yeah, it's like
What do you mean?
like you've heard the term like red pill, right? Like as in the Matrix,
Yeah, I
like
know
red
there's a
pill, blue
subreddit
pill.
on it.
Yeah, basically, the idea is that the blue pill is to choose to be like in blissful ignorance and go back into the Matrix, right? And then the red pill is to realize that everything is messed up and just like live with it and fight to know more of how messed up things are.
Well, okay. Red pill on Reddit is a sub where it's like a really misogynistic, male-dominated community talking about women. But
Why would it be
Yeah, so-
talking about just women? Like that doesn't really make sense. There are a lot of things to be
Reddit is
red pilled
weird,
on.
dude.
Oh, maybe they don't allow
it's-
other sort of red pill content because a lot of it is straight up banned from the internet at this point. So, if you think you got freedom of speech nowadays, it is quickly fading away thanks to like Google, Facebook, Reddit, all those guys. They're colluding. They're working together, and they're basically just trying to silence dissent. So, damn. All right, so do you guys have like favorite verses that you guys would like to talk about?
I've got a few. I think I got a few. I loved Bang's verse against me that beat me. I said I loved Rude
MCD,
against Bang.
which week was your verse that I
was
commented?
playoff round one.
Like I commented on how you described snow-top trees. Which week was that?
Back. That was like.
I think that was week 3. Maybe.
Week 3. Yeah, because I remember that one. Like that one, I sat back and I'm like, whoa, MCD is a real threat, and you definitely turned out to be. But that was the first one where like really like clearly on the radar. Let's see. Sigmosh versus MCD. I'm just gonna tab open all of your previous battles. Oh, our thing Rudex. Oh yeah. Overpowered team. Okay.
Wait, was this a two versus twos?
Yeah,
Yep.
the week 2.
Oh my god, bro. It was so difficult riding with T-bars.
Really? Why?
Because it's like
Right back.
I don't wanna throw like anything negative out there, but it's just we have very different styles of writing, and I'm one of the people that like wants to see your work not at the last minute so that I can kind of adjust to it, you know?
Yep.
And I felt like I was bugging him to send me verses and work like throughout the week, and finally on the last day he's like, yo, let's do this. And I was like, it's just, cause that's not the type of writer I am. Like,
Yeah.
I like to kind of like plan it out throughout the week. And
Yeah, figure
Me and
out what you're gonna
Sanguine
write
were
about.
like complete opposite. I don't think we barely spoke. We just like sent each other 16 lines each and just slapped them together. We scraped through that round.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Like now a couple weeks removed, well, many weeks removed from that, kind of talking about our experiences and stuff. You know, what happened behind the scenes. Cthulhu versus Ideal Mind. I think I read most of these verses, so I'm gonna have a glance. I still am trying to find. This is your alien one for sure. I mean, that was.
Wait, what was MCD's alien verse? I don't know if I remember that.
Week 4, Ness versus MCD. It takes a big turn all of a sudden. Like you can't see his approach coming. Cause he's just like, oh yeah, somebody's standing in front of a cliff. Martians. Like you do not see that coming. You do not see that coming. There's no. Yeah, sure. I'll link it in I'll link it in the Cypher Circle chat, I guess, so we can, or I don't know, chit chat.
Okay.
One of those two. I don't know. All right, so I linked it. Yeah, I mean
So,
this
did you find
verse
the
was
verse you
really
were
dope.
looking for?
No. I'm still looking for it. Oh,
Is
it must have
the
been
one
this
that
guy.
says huddle beneath the umbrella?
Yeah, it must have been this one. Yeah. This was the first verse where I took a pause and I'm like, oh shit, MCD. Woo. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Snow
Remember,
lap.
like, I was really happy
Sorry.
with my verse until I read his. Fuck. There goes verse of the.
Yup. That feel. Yeah, snow-lapped toes, she sheltered from the artillery of swollen clouds and softly soothed her daughter bound tight in woven shrouds. Persephone, she cooed and stowed her child inside the tree's golden boughs. Like, just, ah.
It's really back in February. That's fucking crazy.
That is crazy. I remember this verse now. Looking at it, it had like a very Promethean vibe.
Yes, that was exactly it. I basically ripped off Prometheus.
You're talking about week 4?
Yeah.
Yep.
But I fucking love alien shit, so that always wins points for me.
Yeah, I really, I think like, I think this verse, like your refrigerant gas, vigorous mass, obsidian black, Olympian craft, like, and then, you know, the terrestrial gadgets, temples of granite, projection of magnets, like, your rhyme schemes were really, really tight in this verse. Really good. Like,
Oh, speaking of aliens, another one of my favorites was Bang's week because he had the alien.
which week was that?
Week 3 versus
You wanna link it up?
yep, already did.
Yes.
I feel like when Big Bird
Rise.
wrote against me, he always came with fire too, man. Fuck.
You and Big Bird had some of, like, I don't even know what it was, but after you guys battled the first time, I basically, like, mentally associated you guys because you guys write so, like, there's something just very similar about you both in the style, and you battling, like, it brought the best out of both of you. You guys both, like, each time you guys battled, which I think you guys battled twice, if I remember correctly. Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Twice.
Yep, and like each time you guys battled, like it was just sick. Like really good. Alright,
And the second time we battle, it was like my favorite verse I wrote in GSL this whole time. And then he came with his verse after, and I was like, damn, that's a really fucking good verse too.
yep.
That was with the falling Lucifer picture, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the one where Rude is like the only one that got the message.
I wanted to use that picture against Boom so fucking bad, but he already knew what I was gonna do with it. So he was like, "Oh, no, I can't see that picture. Let's swap to this other one."
Wait, what would you have done for that
Oh, I was really gonna make it like he was the fallen Lucifer who's lost his grace.
picture? Y'all on that constant personal shit. Jesus, you even did it in your verses anyway, with because that was the Warcraft picture that you chose.
Yeah,
that week, right?
the Warhammer thing. Yeah, I knew
mean,
he
yeah,
was gonna
Warhammer,
take a punch
Warcraft.
at me, so like I was trying to preemptively strike.
Yo, that was one of my favorite verses too, though. Like your Warcraft, because it was so packed with like detail from the universe, which I think won over a hell of a lot of heads who were voting on that battle. I was like, yeah.
I thought it was funny when he picked that picture because I didn't have it on my favorites list. It was cool, but like I really didn't want to nerd out. But then he picked it thinking that I didn't know anything about it. And that was the funny part is I actually had, he was actually joking that BaronX probably has a codex about a Warhammer codex. And I
do
actually
not.
have one sitting on my desk at that time.
Oh
Yeah,
shit!
I saw you post a picture. Yeah.
Oh
You had the
damn.
Blood Angels Kotak.
Yeah, I used to paint the figurines and sell them because like a lot of guys that played it in a local shop, they would pay a hell of a lot of money just to have it assembled and painted where they didn't have to like. I would buy a set for like $200 or $300 and then sell it for like $2,500 to $3,000.
God damn, are you serious?
Yeah.
How much work, like how many hours was going to painting and stuff like that?
I probably would put it together over a weekend, maybe 3 to 4 days.
What
at
the
most. It was the
fuck?
biggest
That's
one.
crazy.
Yeah. Like I've never actually played a game of it myself, but I bought the codex because that was the biggest army I was working on, and I needed to use the paint schemes and whatnot.
Yeah, I've never played it either, but I'm just a fan of like
I've-
again, like sci-fi and space operas and shit.
I've seen it played once only. I saw people like doing it. I went to visit my sister when she was at Binghamton University, and they had like a little nerd club, and they were playing Warhammer, and I mean it looked interesting. I didn't really get how it works, but you know, never played it.
The subject of subliminals, I really enjoyed Boom's verse against Sick Mosh as well. I think it was.
Yeah.
It's about
The
fishing.
one.
Oh, yup. Yup.
That's such a troll thing to do. Such a boom thing to do.
Let's see if I can
Made
figure it
me smile all the way through, knowing exactly what he was doing.
No, and also his approach versus Rude. Like you guys both had a really solid approach, but like I liked how he took shots there. That was definitely clever.
I knew what he was doing because he was building up to it, where he kept trying to play me up as the GSL villain because I was trying to help him force stuff. And I was like, I know where his verse is gonna go, so I have to also come at him sideways. But I do like the language and the narration he took to it.
Yeah, very much like fairy tale stuff. Like never trust a wuggle horn.
Uses weird ass.
I was talking about week 6.
Oh, my bad. That was actually, that one he actually did not come at me sideways, and I did come at him sideways that week.
Yep.
But that one was like a very like Narnia type of fantasy world, and I did not.
Yeah, I think honestly, in terms of Boom, I think this might be one of my favorite verses from him. I really enjoyed it personally, reading through it.
That was the verse with the picture of like the mare, the gold mare and shit.
Yep.
Where we had to do three different picture talks.
Yeah, okay, I remember that one.
Or the challenge
Baron's-
with all of.
Yeah. Baron's language is always so interesting too. He always has like words that I feel like I've never fucking heard before, or he's just making up words sometimes. And that man loves alliteration
Yeah, he
so
does.
much.
Yeah,
Did it?
it rubbed off on me when I wrote my final piece.
Yeah, I think I tried a little bit too hard for alliteration in that week, and I think it got me.
It's funny how he was able to influence other people like that.
Yeah.
He hasn't been very active on
No, he's there's a topical tournament going on me, so
Just had another
okay.
baby as well. Isn't he?
yeah.
That's true, yeah.
Well, I don't
He's
know
have a
if
kid.
she's actually had it, but I know he was expecting.
Love how abrasive he is.
Yep.
Yeah.
At the end of that,
Same.
the fish. At the end of the fishing verse, he's just like, "Your kind words. The verse is about me trolling Mosh into taking my bait. It's not really about fishing at all." Just so like blunt.
What week was that?
Because he takes everything seriously, like.
Like, I don't think there was a week besides week 6 where he absolutely did not take a pot shot somewhere on his post, whether it be the title, whether it be the verse itself, it having a double meaning or whatever. Because like he was talking about everybody like writing too much, doubling up their lines or whatever. So him and Ness named they titled their piece 32 lines of teamwork.
That's pretty funny. But he's so easy to troll because he's like that too. I remember in just this RR chat one time, he was fucking going at someone, and I just came to their name and I started talking mad shit at him. And he was getting so worked up.
It wasn't Diasic, was it?
No, it wasn't Diasic. It was someone else. But I was like, "You trash, dog. Come see me." He was getting super into it, and at the end I just changed it back, and I was like, "No, it's just me." He was like, "Fuck you."
Oh, you know what? I actually did a graphic for week 6. Now that I think about it, but I thought it might have been giving me an unfair advantage of giving the what's the theme of mine where somebody as you're reading the verse, it sounds like you're in a fantastical world, and when you get to the end, you realize somebody was like playing a game on their phone the whole time. So I wanted to do a graphic to where it was like you're selling that game, but I thought it might, change the advantage of what anybody, like if you didn't get, it's my fault and not your. I didn't graphic fair to you, but I'm gonna post it in the chat because it exists now.
Yeah, post it up for sure. It's the perfect time to view it, GSL magazine, so.
Damn, it is about to be 4 a.m. here.
Oh, jeez.
Yes, see, I had blended the 3 pictures to make it look was like a video game.
Yo, I really like that.
Wait, this was from a verse you wrote? Like the prompt picture?
Well, no, those were the 3 pictures from week 6. But
Okay.
I didn't want to post the graphic because I didn't want, an advantage of using Photoshop to win the battle.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel it.
I definitely
And I don't
respect
even know
that.
that would have won the battle, honestly, but I did not want to put it out there to, what I'm saying, like to even influence anybody.
I don't think I read many week 6 verses just because I left right before that, so I need to go back and check those out.
I actually like TGO's take on week 6. He was like the first person to post, and he used all 6 topics or whatever. But he made it like it was a little boy and it's either his dad or his grandfather, like on a road trip, and he's reading all of these books that involve these pictures as they're on this road trip. I don't think
cool
he was
concept.
won that week, but I thought it was an interesting take on using all
Wasn't that the one that like he did like a topic per line or something like that, and it ended up his verse was like super short?
No, that was the week he was filling in against Candy when we had the 12 topics, 12 texts.
Oh, yep. Yeah, and he left it at 12 lines, which I mean,
Yeah.
respect to him, but definitely is a little dangerous, choosing just to write the 12.
I think he really didn't have any interest in writing that week. He was given something to fill in so that person could win without having enough.
He's a good man.
I just want to add that while GSL was going on, the text drop section on RR was yikes. It was like desert, dude. There wasn't much good coming through there.
Yeah, it was a lot of age. 80% age, and then the other 20% was like, I don't know, like D-Magic and whoever else is new there. I'm not even familiar. I haven't been in the actual text area for a minute.
It was pretty barren.
So, do you guys have favorite verses of your own, which you particularly enjoyed this season, that you look back on more fondly than the others?
Yeah, definitely. I thought the visit was my favorite verse that I wrote this week, which was the.
You wanna read it?
Oh, I can. Yeah, I gotta pull it.
Yeah,
I'm on my
link it
phone right
up.
now. I don't know if I can see that.
Link it up when you get it
Might have-
open.
Okay. I don't know if I could link it because I don't know if I could. I'm on push to talk right now, so I don't know if I could read it at the same time I talk. I'm just gonna post the lyrics in the chit chat right here.
Okay. Just
So I could read it
post
through there.
post the link, I guess, as well, so I can read along.
I'll find the link.
Yeah, I think honestly my favorite verse of mine was week 1. I think that was my favorite verse. Just like I remember like reading through that and being like, damn, like I covered a lot of ground very, very efficiently, and it was just good. So that's the one I'll read when we get around to it.
Well, what was your week 1 verse?
The little girl in the red dress with the balloon.
Okay. Hey, that's saved on my work.
Yeah, I really like that one too.
I kind of wanna see MCD's verse with Sanguine. Oh, you can definitely tell that this was like Sanguine just doing his thing, because this looks like exactly like what a Sanguine verse is by definition. Am I correct in thinking he sent you his 16 and then you wrote your 16, or?
Pretty much, yeah, and the story.
Yeah.
Remember rightly.
Yeah, because it looks like Sanguine basically just wrote his style throughout, which, I mean, who can blame him? But, you know, for a team verse, you know, I guess, you know, you'd want to have a little bit of, like, back and forth. But, I don't know.
Yeah. We definitely scraped it.
That's good, though. I think you guys, like, I mean, definitely, it was definitely close. I mean, given that it was Idealist and Baron Mind, so, like, can't really expect a super easy win, but you guys did win, so that's what it's all about. Alright, so did you post it? Oh yeah, you did. Okay.
Yeah.
Get this.
Yeah, I just posted the lyrics so I can read it while
Get this open.
I'm actually pushing to.
Oh, this is your playoffs.
If I sound like-
this is your Big Bird. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt it.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't mean to interrupt it.
Big Bird had a really good verse too. If I sound like a little slow right now too, it's because I just took Valium, so
Oh,
I'm like preparing to go to bed, kind of. Fucking sound lazy as shit.
alright. So if you want to read it,
Read through it. Okay. Let me see if I could. The building sat in wait, each broken panel on display betraying how much of the world had passed it by as it decayed. From every speckled tint and shade to little freckled chips of paint, all the grooves holding a. We walked the beaten path that led to the estate. A fickle light flickered inside. The oaken door opened and wait. I drew a breath as slow as dragging on a cigarette and prayed, hesitated for a moment, then stepped forward toward. There a single man sat waiting, maybe 60-ish or so, dressed and dapper, with a beard and head of hair as white as snow. From his leather chair he rose and took my hands into his own, offered a seat, then poured out 2 fingers of whiskey for us. Who are you? I somehow stammered, hearing fear within my tone. I'm known by many names, he answered, as he slowly stoked the coal fireplace as ancient as the lines, the wall, the home, or the walls that held the home, before he swept across the creaking floor and settled in his throne, peering at me through eyes cloudier than staring. Hebrews call me the accuser, adversary, and Satan, Belial or Beelzebub. Sometimes Muslims call me Shaitan, Lucifer and Abaddon. As he spoke, I held my breath. I knows me as Samuel, and most men know me as Dad. I raised my glass with shaky hands to take and eat a taste as he studied me through smiling lines that creased across his face. All my sins flashed through my mind. My heart started to collapse, but the silence of that moment was soon broken by. There's no torture here, my son, and no need for fear or panic. Let's just say religious scholars have a flair for the dramatic. So what happens now? I queried with release, replacing dread. You continue with your sentence till your soul has paid its debt. I look forward to the day when you're released from earth, Mikhail. He embraced me warmly one last time and sent me back to heaven.
Ooh. 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 That's really good, dude. That's really good, dude.
Yeah, and hell is, and that is supposed to be earth. Like, that's where he's serving his sentence, you know? Because the picture is the whole demon falling back to earth.
Yeah,
So the
that's
basic
sick.
gist of that,
Yeah,
since Link got it, or was that there's kind of 2 ways to interpret it in my mind, where either Lucifer had taken over heaven and won the war, or the other thing could have been that, like Rude said, Michael is actually the angel that started the rebellion and was banished from heaven.
Yeah,
That's it.
I really liked your writing here. Like strong multi-syllabic rhymes. I really am. I really liked your Hebrews call me the accuser, adversary, and Hashatan. Satan, Belial or Beelzebub. Sometimes Muslims call me Shaitan. Lucifer and Abaddon. As he spoke, he held my breath. Like, really good. Like, I really enjoyed all the all the little defining characteristics that you threw in there. Like those elements just really added a lot of weight to the verse. I like it.
Absolutely, that was one of my favorite verses. Well, that's a big verse from this season, as well. And I like how he mixed like the old language with Samael and Mikhail, and for Satan and Michael, but then also had more modern language, like 60ish or so, things like that. Like it was a perfect concept of languages.
Oh, thanks. Appreciate that. It's one of those things where, like, MCD was talking about earlier, or I guess we all were, where it's the line limit really has to dictate the pace of your story.
Yep.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
Yep.
it's hard to. I mean, I left it very kind of open to interpretation because that was the only way to really get the story across within the line limit, I think.
Gotcha.
I think you did a really nice job with it. The pacing was nice. The feeling was really good. Just a really, really nice, well-written verse. And I can definitely see why it's your favorite, because, I mean, some of your best writing, so.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, so who wants to go next? I don't know if MCD is still there. I see he's muted, but also Rude. You could go. You have a favorite verse?
Sure. I think for me personally was my week 3, even though I knew MCD beat me on week 3. Fortunately for me, I didn't have to face MCD on week 3. I had Dice.
Yep.
But I was genuinely happy with how the reveal at the end of that was the week where your opponent picked your topic. So Dice gave me the very Iceland with the singular person with the fire text music of the night. Make sure I did post it. A stare of terror, shivering some ounce. He wasn't meant for this. Skin blistering somehow, thanks to winter's. The breeze shift slithering around. Oh, how he wished for a leaf. His misery resounds, he asked. Just a cinder, a beacon, to signal me around. I'm lost in this mist and I'm freezing. There's no victory without pain, as he whimpered of weakness. An air of mystery abound. The wind whispers its secret. Witchery surrounds songs that filter his deepest fears. The sounds bounce off, mirror his grief. Reflect on history accounts. He's been a sinner, a heathen. His temper of recent, bitter, uneven. His liver depleted, skin full of lesion. His signature speech is to beg, a prisoner pleading. Please listen to reason. A plague pillaged most of my village this season. Look, a ripple, I'm dreaming, a symbol of freedom. Simple, I'll leave. He belittles the scene. I chimed in from the front, stop the impulsive belief in your dance with me is even something that's cheated. His heart's drumming, it's beating, the hums of his weeping, only matched by the pleasing strums of his shrieking. A thunderous feeling, a chorus of anguish. The melody plays off the chords of an orchestral playlist of pain. His organs all ache, and he makes the most horrid of the symphonic slow of his pulse. The rest of it sad, though, accompanies the woodwind of his breath. We met in the shadows. He crept through the gap. I waltzed through the valley of death with his last soul. The door to my kingdom is hidden in dissonant stark, devoid of all light, plunged in infinite darkness. The pathway is jagged, a cautious endeavor. Watch your step. Oh, I'm held, and your goddess forever.
Nice. Can I just say, let me find the particular line. Oh, his signature speech is to beg, a prisoner pleading. Please listen to reason. A plague pillaged most of my village this season. Look, a ripple, I'm dreaming, a symbol of freedom. It's simple, I'll leave then. He belittles the scene, and like, I really like that. That was really fun to read and to have read, I guess, since you were reading it aloud. I just love that like swirling rhyme scheme there.
I wanted
Dude,
it to sound like he's being led to death, but he knows he's dying, but he doesn't want to die, and he wants it to be a dream. And so, like that whole line, your dance with me is even something that's cheated. It's like you can't cheat.
Gotcha. Your rhyme schemes are always so fucking like deep. Like you're hitting not just at the end of a bar, but at the beginning of one too, like all through.
I think that's why this was my favorite week. It's like I wasn't trying for rhyme schemes; they just kept coming, and like I didn't want to break it. Like they kept coming, and I was like, okay, well I can make this work, and I can make this work, and I can make this work, and they just kept coming for like I think it was like 16 lines.
Yeah, that was pretty nice. And people who don't really write can't appreciate how difficult that is to string something like that together for that long.
Yep.
And make it relevant to the story and actually tell some kind of story. You know, it's just
Yeah, and to do
It's
so
something
without
that-
wasting
to
too
do
many
so
words and all that, like just telling an efficient
Right.
story in rhyme is difficult. So MCD, are you still here?
Rude's always, I think that's definitely one of our strongest points. So like, and I think all of those top writers kind of have that in GSL where they can deliver really natural multis throughout the piece with inners and the end rhymes and also like just consonants rhyme and slant. And like we were talking about earlier, it helps the flow of the piece immensely.
That's for sure. Yeah, it just makes it more impactful. Like when you describe these really cool things and tell a good story with like fewer words and with strong rhyme schemes, people are gonna sit back and just like they're gonna be blown away. You know, like the thing is like topicals, the way that we write them, they're some of the most technically challenging, you know, forms of writing that have ever existed. Like I think Shakespeare would, you know, he would go crazy for stuff like this, man. He would love it.
I'd fucking work Shakespeare if he tried to topical.
Ooh.
Kill that fool.
Wherefore art thou now, bitches?
I think any of us would.
Yeah, but I think he would adapt. You know, if he were alive nowadays.
One of the things I think, especially as a hip hop head, that I fucking absolutely love is just hearing a new rhyme that I've never heard before. Like with a word I've never heard before or a phrase I've never heard before.
Yup.
That shit always like gets me like, yeah. Like that sound after you drink a Coke where it's just like,
Crisp, refreshing.
You ever like just hear a new word and when you like you're trying to rhyme it and then you hit this notch where you're just like a dozen come at a time. And
Yup.
you're just like, man, this is a really fun scheme. I don't want to leave.
Yeah, where
Yeah,
you
no,
realize
for
you
sure.
can tie it into like 30 other rhymes that you already know.
and when I'm writing too, like a verse, I'll have, if I think of a cool multi or something in the scheme I'm currently on, I'll just write it on the bottom. I'll like list the words out on the bottom of the verse and then like try to just to remind me about them
Yep.
and see if I could work them into the current scheme I'm using. Yeah.
I don't know if you remember this collab, Baron, but when we did the with villain the monster collab or Monster Squad, I think it was.
Do you have the link for
I
it?
had actually, I can get it real quick.
Yep.
But earlier when I wrote that verse, earlier that day I had heard the word exsanguinated, and I seen it in context. Somebody, you know, drained of blood, and like that immediately like started that verse.
You know what's wild? When you were
gotta rhyme that.
when Bang was talking about how like when you hear a word or something used, that's actually the word that I was thinking of. So
I don't remember. I can't even talk. I don't remember what show I was watching. It was like a crime show. You know, looking over the victim, and they're like, yeah, they're sanguinate. And I was like, oh, I need to use that word.
I just-
give me a minute.
Just heard defenestration. I forget what verse I was writing, but I was like, yo, how can I use defenestration? But I never ended up using it. I think it's the act of throwing someone out a window or some shit.
yep. Good
I
word.
heard a word the other day watching Lucifer called bifurcate, and I was like, I need to use this word soon. I hadn't done it yet, but it's coming.
Yeah,
I
there
need
are
to
a
get
lot
better
of cool
about
words.
just like
Here it is.
Yeah.
Here it is. 1 second. I'm getting the link.
How do you guys feel about doing Google Docs collab after this?
Oh, that sounds fun, to be
We
honest.
could do like a little live recorded collab after after we finish with the magazine. I will read my verse versus Gideon Grimm week 1 because that was still at this point, even though I had some good verses, like I just really liked how naturally this verse came to me. Like it wasn't even tough to write in the topics; it just kept coming, and I really like it. Like the atmosphere that's
You got a
built.
link?
Yep. Me.
All right, and
Really link
I'll
it.
read along. I'll be right back.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna grab a drink of water as well. I'll be right back as well. All right, turn on.
it's just me and you, MCD. I guess it's just me.
Alright, I'm back.
Okay. I'm reading through your verse right now.
Alright, so I'll read it. So it's titled Innocence Abandoned. Let me pause this music. Sullen smoke and swirling sewage, the city of shadows. Her world is in ruins, addled and battled since the day she was born. 6 years of torture and haze and in storm. That day was reborn and remade in her form, a maiden once warm, grown greater with scorn, spilt pollution and scattered trash. These years of youth, she'll never have 'em back. Wrapped in rats, surrounded in ash, a ghastly bastion amid the mountains of trash. Red as her dress when she'd lost her balloon, the last trace of love in her heart as the tomb. The sky of papyrus, the writing in shade, a virulent virus, a cycle of pain. Glasses were shattered and kicked was the dirt. Her face full of bruises, a victim of earth. When she turned 7, she spurned at the heavens. She spat at the world and murdered forever the wisps of the past and the path of her whist. Downward to darkness, a vacuous pit. Black as the pitch, cast in chasms and rifts, gnashing the grit as she thrashes and rips. Meat from the bone, lashing her lips. A monster created and abandoned was this. Innocence and any sense of humanity. No semblance of sanity, just vengeance and vanity. Her head full of fantasies, all dying at once. Watching it drift ever higher and up. It soon was obscured, suffocated in smog, consumed with her fury, Her hatred grew strong, erasing her flame. All traces had gone, and just like the rest, she became what was wrong.
That was a dope. I don't do. I don't think I signed in to really participate in week one, so I didn't read a lot of the battles, but I do remember reading. Rapid fire mechanical structure to the multis and just led like boom 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 boom. They just led right into each.
Right. I think the whole thing about like in biology, one of the main concepts is every organism is a product of their genetics and their environment, right?
Yep.
So I think that was a cool, cool thing to incorporate too, like how influenced by that environment that she grew up in.
Right.
Poisoned by the world.
And that's a very relevant like topic to but seems like I don't know, there's a lot of crazy shit going down these days, and we are damn, I don't know.
Yeah, Clown World is in full effect. That's for sure. There's a lot of crazy shit and a lot of shit to get bogged down by. So, my whole goal in writing this, I made the balloon basically a metaphor for her humanity, and through no fault of her own, she loses it. It floats away into the distance and the smog, and that's why it's like watching it drift ever higher and up, and all that is a metaphor for both her like loss of humanity, but also just the loss of the balloon, because like that was the moment where she ceased to be a child and became the poison that infested the world. That was basically my subtext, I guess.
Mm, I see.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I really
that's
like that. I really like.
advice there. And a really good picture too, because it relates to it very well.
Yeah, that was the verse that at least for this season that stood out to me as like I had a really natural, easy time writing this verse. Because like as soon as I started writing, like the first lines, they just came off my fingertips like it was like water running off a duck's back. It was crazy how easy it came, and it just kept building, kept building. It wasn't one of those verses where I had to like, hobble together some like little pieces that I came up with. No, it just came, smoothly and naturally, and all the elements kept, adding to the story, and so that's why this was definitely my favorite of the season, which I have weird favorites because like some of my favorite verses like all time, I still look back to this this verse that I wrote in like I think it was like the first GSL that I ever participated in, um, where I wrote about this little girl that's in an insane asylum, and she sees like her imaginary world where it's like okay for her, but it's like a totally twisted, messed up world. And she like stabbed her parents to death, and like it turns out in the end that she's like hallucinating the entire time. So like I think I like the characters, and this girl, I felt the character. You know what I mean? Like I still remember how it felt to be this girl writing this story.
Speaks to all of us because I mean we've all think of how innocent you are as a child. World just slowly fucking destroys all of that over time. And pessimistic.
Yep. Definitely is a little pessimistic. All right, so MCD, I don't know if you're still there. Maybe you'd like to pick a verse of yours and we could read it, or you could read it. I don't know. I feel like MCD might be gone now.
Yeah, I tried to talk to him when you guys were gone, and he didn't respond. So he
Yeah.
might not.
Yeah. All
I
right.
think it was
So
although very lengthy season, it was a very productive season, and it did produce a lot of good battles.
yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I did enjoy the challenge every week because it's so easy to go in and pick a topic that you like and just write. But when when you're forced to write to a topic somebody else chose for you, or write with a partner that you may not make writing with, like it really adds to the difficulty of the challenge.
For sure.
Yeah, and I think it gives you kind of perspective on your own writing, because like when you step out of the pocket, it kind of gives you like almost a better idea of what you yourself do. Because like when you go back to writing your style, now you've kind of you see it from like third person rather than just writing as you normally would. And that's one of the reasons that
That's
during this season that like I tried to include a lot of like challenges and stuff that like like I chose them, yes, but I knew they would be hard even for me. Like the pick your opponent's topic, I'm like, God, I'm gonna get just smashed with a board here, giving somebody the choice of a topic when people know my style, we know the styles that we each of us write with. So like some of us used a lot of tactics and stuff and really tried to dick over our opponents. And like I noticed, Rude, you gave Diasic, hiding in the light with the picture that looked just like what you would describe as hiding in the light. So, like, in other cases, that felt kind of like a softball, like you were being
I
nice.
set him up for a good verse. Like
Yep.
I wasn't really trying to by giving him something hard. Like
Yeah.
that would have been like one of my ideas of text to pick.
Yeah, so we had.
But I know that one text topic, just $1 more. Like that's the one everybody hit each other with. Like that relates to no time.
Yo.
Yeah, I got lucky with what Bird gave me, picture and music of the night. And I was like, as soon as I saw that, I know what I could do.
Yeah, it was really cool to see how we all adapted to that, because in a lot of cases, yeah, we picked like the topics that would have been the toughest for our opponents. So it really forced us all out of our comfort zone. And then like the multiple topic challenges and stuff like that, it forces you to come up with like a more dynamic, more creative story, instead of just whatever. Which I definitely like that.
Yeah.
Right.
On that particular I remember like and I was so gassed about it that I wrote a second verse because I liked the other picture with the I think it was like the two people underwater, and
Yep.
like I tried to use I think extraction. I'm trying to find it now.
Yeah, it was quite a lot of fun. It was a very, very enjoyable GSL season. My girlfriend is quite upset about what ended up happening with myself, but it is what it is. MCD came in with a friggin' spike filled baseball bat and plunged it into my skull. And for some reason, and it's like what's that?
I was gonna say he didn't plunge a fucking baseball bat into your skull. Like your shit was even in my mind. said, I could have woken up on a different day or sat down even like an hour later, and maybe my vote would have been different. It was really really close, dude.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like my biggest mistake was running for like the sublims, because I saw that Boom took subliminal shots at Rude, and I was like kind of annoyed by that. So I'm like, I'm gonna take sublims at Boom. And like it wasn't even originally my idea. Like when I first wrote that big boom in all caps, that wasn't even intended as a shot. Like I was just writing a story at that point. And then like toward the end, because my initial idea was like a supernatural element of the story. Like this guy crashes the plane and there's like some strange creature that drives him to, to madness, like a creepy pasta, that type of thing.
Right.
That's kind of the approach that I was going for. And I'm like, I could work in a sublim with that, so why not do both? And but rereading it, like the first 24 lines of it, I love, absolutely love. I think like the first, I think the opener of it, like the whole thing, like before the plane crash, I think that's some of the best writing that I've done. I think, because like it was just like, it was fast paced, it was imagery filled, it was really tightly rhyming, all of that. And then like the last like 8 lines where I tried to transfer to that supernatural topic and hit a sublim and do all this stuff, it just felt ham-fisted. Reading through it again, it just didn't feel like it was, like I feel like if I were to write it again and I had the chance, I would have just like, maybe the guy would have been like hallucinating and dying in the snow and the cold, and it would have been like a really kind of depressing story of like, I don't know, because like it's tough, like the guy's fucked, like there's no getting out of that. He's like,
Very fucking dark angle to that is if you had like a passenger and like it come down to like one person eating the other.
oh.
And that's why he's sitting there by himself contemplating what the fuck he's done with his.
Okay.
Donner
Okay.
party.
I wish I had that idea when I was writing it. That is really good, Rude.
I was just looking at the picture again and I was like, man, that would have been so dark.
That right there is why Rude is a top tier writer, ladies and gentlemen. Stuff like that. I like it. So, do you guys want to discuss anything else before we close? Because we don't want to make it like super super long, if possible.
Right.
For long.
I
Yeah,
don't
sure.
think I have anything GSL related to this.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, as am I. I think it would be fun. Like I know you both mentioned like you wanted to like do some freestyle stuff. We could do like a separate recording, and I could just like I could try and like show you guys like some stuff with freestyle, because like it's really not that difficult, and you both like have really strong multisyllabic rhyme skills, which is like the core and essence of how you freestyle. So I don't think either of you guys would have that difficult of a time. All right. So
it'll still be
anyway,
difficult though.
oh sorry. Anyway,
We'll save that for later.
let's close up the GSL magazine. You guys have any closing thoughts now that we have our GSL season 7 champion Rude atop the pile of corpses, and with the crown of charred bone or whatever, because I remember that was an element of one of the verses. uh,
I was just gonna say I hope everybody like comes back for season. We can maybe run that a little quicker and smoother now that we've worked out kinks that we where the foot has to be put down as far as letting people slide without voting, or or how long they take to vote or whatnot.
Yep.
So I definitely would like to see a lot of people back, especially like Bang and Scar and Esbano. I'd definitely like to see Boom.
Dude, can we?
I'd actually like to see Villain or Jay, whatever his name is. I'd like to see him stay in longer than one round.
Yeah, Behemoth. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yo, can we comment on El Espano, by the way? Like, he kind of came out of nowhere and had a really pretty impressive run. So, like, shout outs to El Espano.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, absolutely.
he's a dude that writes his verses and I remember him commenting on that one time.
What is that? Sorry,
I
you
think
cut out.
GS
What is that? Sorry, you cut out.
he's the dude that writes his verses like an hour before they're due, if I remember correctly. I remember him commenting on that. So yeah, he's a. I think one thing GSL actually did really well, man, was highlight not only some of the talent that was already, but some of the new talent, and then it's kind of one of those leagues where I feel everyone improved throughout the course of the league, and a big part of that was the feedback that was given, because there was a lot of like detailed votes, you know, that really let you turn a more critical eye to your own work. And when you compare that to something like the times where people are dropping pieces for feedback, but the feedback is usually like pretty. Um, I think that GSL is such that much more of a better environment for writers because it's more of a collaborative league. That I'm sorry, I'm high right now. Can't get through much,
No
but you get
worries.
the gist of what I'm saying. I think.
Yeah. No worries. Like it's like that saying, you know, all ships rise with the tide, and it seems like people in GSL truly live that. You know, people come in with awesome feedback for one another. Because you know, we do this, and we've been in a league together since February, right? You really get to know the people that you're writing against, you know, how they are as a person, how they are as a writer, the things that, you know, someone has as their strong suit or their weakness. And when it comes to feedback, you can really pinpoint and give them the best, you know, the best possible ideas for improvement, you know?
Right.
Yeah, and I guess that's again, you know, not to keep hitting at age, but age, that's what you need in your votes, man, because like consistently it does not feel like you genuinely care about the improvement of the people that you're voting for, right? Like it just feels like you know you're doing it because you have to or whatever, and you try and fill up as many words like little kids in the 6th grade when they have to write an essay and they just write the same thing 3 times to take up words. Like, you know, it's not, you know, it's not gonna fly because like we genuinely care about the feedback that's received. Like no one's losing sleep over votes. I don't want to say no one because I mean who knows, but no one's stressing over just the votes, right? It's the fact that you know it's like they're things to help us. Each week we want to improve. We want to become better writers, and you know when the feedback that you provide isn't going to help someone become a better writer, you know it's kind of robbing someone of a genuine vote, because every age vote that is allowed to pass that turns a battle into a KO, say like that's 3 votes, right? 1/3 of those votes would then be basically useless. You could have had another vote in place of that. And you know, age, like that's gotta be something you focus on. Really try and help other people because you will improve in the process. So
For sure.
I feel bad constantly.
Yeah,
like,
I
feel
commenting.
bad.
All right, so I guess that's that. You know, that's we've talked about the league. We should put up awards for the season. People can talk about their own their favorite verses and all that, and we can get you know, maybe like a surprise of the season or like a rising star award and that type of thing. And I don't know if Disputer is able to give out those awards, but it would be cool to, you know, to at least like make the push for the awards.
Right.
'Cause right now, you know, I think.
A lot of us haven't gotten our awards from like 2 years ago. So.
Yep. Yeah, I haven't gotten my awards from the last pay-per-view. I don't have an award from winning the last GSL, nor the surgical shorthand. Like, missing my awards, man. Missing my awards.
We
But
gotta
yeah.
petition Disputer to get it.
Yeah, I mean, if there's any way we can help with that, like, because I don't see why it would be so difficult. Like, you know, it just seems like it would take some time to like check back through the records, you know, who was supposed to get what. But like, we would be happy to help with that. Like, I don't know. All right. Anyway,
It's kind
thank.
Oh, never mind. I
Well,
don't even want to get.
what I was gonna say, you know, thank you guys, thank you Bang, thank you Rude, thank you MCD, and you know, thank you to everyone that participated this season in GSL, because like the league would not exist without everybody that participated and everybody that voted, you know, that took the time to, you know, when we had like questions about policy and all this stuff, that took the time to air their opinions. And you know, when things were, you know, out of place, you know, people raised their voices, and together, you know, we had a pretty damn good GSL season, I'd say. I think it was, you know, it was a little slower than it might have been otherwise, but you know, it was very good in terms of quality. And I feel like the competition was as strong as it's ever been. So, you know, you gotta, you know, mark that as a success for our first go at running this GSL.
Yeah. And big up to you, Jen, for basically running this. You know, we appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you, Rude. Like,
sure.
thank you for stepping
Did
in.
it for the. Like, I mean, doing most of it by yourself. Me and Ned step in until it was almost playoff time.
Yeah, but I mean, it helped a lot. Like when you and Ness came in and helped like crack down on all the BS and stuff. Like at that point, I was feeling kind of swamped with everything. So like having the weight lifted for, you know, even that period of time, like it was amazing. It was so, you know, it was really, really appreciated. So thank you. And thank you to Ness, even though Ness has been kind of MIA since the playoff week 1, I guess. He hasn't really been on at all, but you know, thank you to him as well, because he also definitely helped out. Yeah, so we'll post up a voting thread for you know, who we thought was like the best of the season. Maybe we can like take a quick you know, maybe like the remainder of this afternoon, post up by this evening, and just come up with some categories, something like that. That way, you know, we don't have to like edit it, or maybe like submit your own categories or whatever. I don't know. We'll figure something out. But either way, we can get this magazine posted up so everybody can hear the thoughts, hear, you know, hopefully, you know, some of the you know, some of the commentary on what topicals are and how we evaluate topicals will be useful for the newcomers to the league. And yeah, I mean, hopefully it's an entertaining, enjoyable magazine production, you know? You guys want to say anything in closing?
Nope, I got nothing really.
What about you, Rude?
No, not for me either. I think I've said the last things.
Nice, nice. All right, well then, without further ado, I'm gonna say good night, guys. Even though it's not really nighttime, but you never know when people are gonna watch the video. And as always, keep the fire alive inside you guys. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button with the little notification thing, and hit the like thing, because even if you watch the video on the frame on Rap Royalty, like it helps a lot if you just open it up and do that stuff, because like YouTube algorithm is kind of crazy. So do it. All right, have a great night, guys. Thank you again, Rude. Thank you, Bang, and thank you, MCD, for hopping on and you know, helping do the magazine. And now it's done. GSL season 7 in the books. Rude, our champion. Woo! Hopefully that's not ear rape when that plays. When that plays.
Hell yeah, congrats, dude.
All right, have a great night, guys. Peace.